never give up, do you? Even when we break you down to scraps, you always come back.
That's right, folks. I'll do it again and again. I will make X and Zero mine. Now come and get me. Give me a good fight, like you always do.
Hello everyone, I am Casey the Gamer, and it's time for another game review. This time, I am taking on the infamous Mega Man X7. Mega Man X7 was developed by Capcom and released on July 17th, 2003 in Japan and October 14th, 2003 in North America for the PlayStation 2. Mega Man X7 was the first game in the X series to try and bring the characters into 3D instead of the traditional 2D. It wasn't really well received. Now, as you have probably gathered by now, I love Mega Man, especially the X series. I don't love X7. Even when I was younger, something about this one always felt off. I don't even remember when I got it, to be honest, unlike the others where I remember it pretty well. I know I rented this or borrowed it a couple of times before I eventually got my own copy. Anyway, is Mega Man X7 all bad? Let's take a closer look and find out. There are spoilers ahead for the story of the game. The game opens up with a couple of Reploids making a deal or an exchange of some kind. Outside of the building, two other Reploids are preparing to go inside. An explosion occurs and one of the Reploids goes to investigate, and the young Reploid cocks his gun and asks if the Reploid has heard of Red Alert before shooting him. The Reploid left in the room grabs the briefcase and takes off, trying to get to safety. Suddenly, his associate from earlier shows up. I guess he survived being shot. Or not. He shoots the Reploid with the briefcase and changes back into the young Reploid. The dying Reploid can't believe what he's seeing, wanting to know how the young Reploid did that. The screen fades to black. Sometime after the events of Mega Man X6, even the most badly damaged and destroyed regions have been set on the road to recovery thanks to the Reploids. Crimes done by Mavericks were on the rise, however. X has removed himself from the front lines because he's tired of Reploids having to fight each other. He's trying to achieve more peaceful solutions. Because of X taking a back seat, an underground organization of hunters called Red Alert has filled the void. One day, the young Reploid from earlier decides to leave Red Alert. The young Reploid begins to fight his way through some Mavericks, and he eventually makes it into the city when a giant Maverick pops up behind him. The screen fades to black yet again. Zero teleports into the city to deal with the Mavericks. He destroys several of them before running into the young Reploid. Zero gets the Reploid to stop, but he tells Zero not to just stand there or else he'll be in danger too. The Reploid takes off and the giant Maverick appears behind Zero. Zero runs and catches up with the Reploid, who introduces himself as Axel. Zero demands a full explanation when this is all over. Zero and Axel work together to destroy the giant Maverick. Zero is escorting Axel back to base, and Axel feels like they were a perfect team. Zero says nothing. Axel asks about X, and Zero brings Axel to him and the others. X begins to give Axel grief for causing all of those problems. Axel explains that he left Red Alert and they sent robots after him. X continues to badger Axel. Axel apologizes for the problems he caused, but claims that he had no choice but to leave. X starts again, but Cygnus tells X to calm down. Cygnus asks why Axel left. Axel explains that Red Alert had changed and that they are no better than murderers now, and that they used him. Zero knows that Red Alert is going to come looking for Axel. Cygnus says that this might be their chance to stop Red Alert, but X complains again about the fighting. And Axel responds saying that sometimes fighting is the only choice, which only causes X to double down. Suddenly, a transmission from Red, the leader of Red Alert, comes through. He says that he wants Axel back. Red proposes a duel, one to determine who the real Maverick hunters are. Red says that if the hunters win, then they will let Axel go. X whines some more, and Red says that they really don't care about deadbeats like him. After a bit more arguing, mostly from X, Zero and Axel team up to go take on Red Alert's hunters and captured Mavericks. Zero and Axel defeat several of the Red Alert members. Between missions, Zero learns more about Axel. Axel has the ability to copy DNA data from other Reploids and take on their appearance and powers. Axel isn't sure where the powers came from, just that he's got them. Zero brings up Axel talking about Red Alert suddenly changing. Axel explains that Red wanted him to hand over the DNA data out of nowhere one day. Soon after that, the other members of Red Alert became more powerful by using the DNA data. After the defeat of 5 members of Red Alert, we get some flashback scenes of Red meeting someone called the Professor, who is just Sigma. Straight up, he's back, again, somehow. Back in the present, X decides to rejoin the fight with Zero and Axel against Red Alert to help end it quickly. As X, Zero, and Axel battle the remaining members of Red Alert, there are more flashback scenes of Red and Sigma. They talk about how impressive Axel's abilities are. It was Sigma's idea to use the DNA data the whole time. Sigma states that he's still missing the most vital piece of DNA data, and Red comes to the realization that he was used. Red says that he isn't going to work for Sigma anymore, but Sigma has taken control of the other members of Red Alert, and he says that they will never return to normal unless Red follows his orders. Sigma wants Axel back and X's DNA data. And this is what set the main plot of the story in motion. Back in the present, the hunters have defeated the remaining members of Red Alert and have discovered the location of their base. X, Zero, and Axel travel to the location and fight their way through the base. They eventually come face to face with Red himself and have a battle. The hunters manage to defeat Red. Red has set the base to self-destruct and tells them to hurry up and get out of there. Axel tries to get Red to come with them, but Zero holds him back. Red says that it's his time, and there's no need for Axel to rush because he's still young. The hunters escape as Red stays behind. The hunters proceed further and fight the rebuilt members of Red Alert before encountering Sigma. The hunters manage to defeat Sigma's first form before he transforms into a giant form. Like, really damn big. After a long battle, Sigma is defeated once again. The base is beginning to crumble, and Axel gets cornered by a damaged Sigma. Axel tries to fight him off, but Sigma punches Axel through a wall. Sigma says he will once again come back. X and Zero get ready to attack Sigma to finish him off when they're attacked by Red. Somehow, Sigma tries to absorb Red and his power. Red says, "With this power, I'll never lose," and summons one of Axel's guns and shoots Sigma in the head, sending him flying out of the window of his tower. As it turns out, Axel took the form of Red to trick Sigma. Axel is pretty pleased with himself, and the hunters take their leave. As with the previous games, there are different endings depending on who you defeat Sigma with. In X's ending, Cygnus and Aelia talk about all the good Axel has been doing, but X is still against Axel becoming an official Maverick hunter. X says that Axel shouldn't be rewarded for using such methods. Cygnus tells X that ideals are not always for the real world, and that he should train Axel to be a hunter like him. X isn't a fan of that idea either. Cygnus says to give it some thought because they know that they haven't seen the last of the Mavericks. In Zero's ending, Zero sees X muttering to himself about destroying all Mavericks before he opens fire on Zero. It turns out it was just a dream. And Axel's ending is just X and Axel arguing about Axel being a hunter. Axel ends up heading out to handle a Maverick attack, and X complains some more. And that is the story of Mega Man X7. It's alright, I guess, except for what they did to X. This is easily his worst characterization in any of the games. It was well established since the first X game that he doesn't like fighting, but he does it because he has to. And in here, he's basically retired. And sure, that's fine, but he is such a jerk to everyone else who has a different idea about how to handle things. And even when he does join the fight, he's still a jerk about it. I really hate what they did to X in this game. Time for the gameplay. Mega Man X7 is the first of the X series to make the jump into 3D. It has both 2D and 3D sections. The main thing is still running, jumping, dashing, shooting, and slashing while battling the Mavericks as you make your way through the stages. How does Mega Man X feel in 3D? I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but this wasn't it. Even the 2D segments aren't great. Everything is so slow compared to the Super Nintendo and PlayStation trilogies. The worst offense of all is just how dull and boring it feels. Mega Man X7 is boring, and even X6 with all of its problems, it never felt boring to me. Let's get this out of the way now. X isn't playable at the start of the game. You start with Axel and then Zero at a later point on the intro stage. We'll talk more about this later, but the injured Reploids are back, and when you rescue enough of them, X decides to join the fight. X will also join the fight after you defeat the 8 Mavericks, whichever comes first. X is the same type of character as before. He is the long-range character with his X-Buster. The only new thing with him is that he can air dash by default. No Z-Saber for X in this game, so just the X-Buster, his new armor, and the special weapons that he collects. Zero is the close-range character once again with his Z-Saber and its various combos. Once again, Zero can double jump and air dash from the get-go. No Z-Buster for Zero in this one, but that's no big deal. One thing that I really like that they started doing for Zero in this game is giving him some new weapons. By defeating certain bosses, Zero will obtain a set of dual daggers and a glaive type weapon. They're both pretty cool. And Axel, the new character, is another ranged character like X. But Axel doesn't have a charge shot. He features 2 rapid-fire pistols instead. He can also dash and hover. Axel has the copy shot ability. If you defeat an enemy with the copy shot, you get their DNA data and can transform into that enemy for a limited time. This is necessary for getting certain items. It's a nice concept, but X7 kinda dropped the ball with it. The copy shot itself does very little damage, so it will take forever to kill even the most basic enemy with just that. And if you use your pistols to soften them up, you'll most likely kill the enemy before you can hit them with the copy shot. Axel gets different guns for the various boss weapons he gets, and I like that too, just like with Zero getting new weapons. Both X and Axel will auto-lock onto enemies when they get within range, and you can switch targets as well. I'm not opposed to a lock-on feature, but the auto-lock-on just feels kinda wrong to me. None of the other games had anything like that. I guess they did it to make the jump to 3D easier? I don't know. As with the previous games, there are 8 heart tanks located in each of the stages to increase your overall health for the character of your choice. Once again, there are 2 sub-tanks to refill your health, a weapon energy tank to refill weapon energy, and the EX tank that will give you 4 lives instead of 2. And X gets a new armor in this game. Just one this time. The Glide armor. And it's kinda meh. Like the design, it's fantastic. Especially the art for it. The art is top tier. It looks so cool. But the armor doesn't really do anything new. For the first time since X4, you can use the abilities of the piece of armor you collect without having to get all 4, which that's nice. Unlike X5 and X6, only X can collect the armor pieces. Neither Zero or Axel can grab them for X. Where did the trust go, Dr. Light? Like, seriously. Anyway, the leg upgrade is located in Soldier Stone Kong stage, and it allows X to glide in a very unexciting fashion. So cool, look at him go. The X-Buster upgrade is located in Flame Hyanard stage, and it gives X a bigger charge shot and allows him to charge up special weapons. The helmet upgrade is located in Snipe Anteater stage, and it doubles the distance of absorbing health and weapon energy pickups. And the body upgrade is located in Wind Crowrang stage, and reduces the damage X takes by half, and gives him the Giga attack. Kinda similar to the one from X2, where it's a screen nuke, but it is nowhere near as impressive in this game, especially visually. As I mentioned earlier, returning from X5 and X6 are the injured Reploids. There's no nightmare to worry about turning them into Mavericks in this game, but the injured Reploids can be killed by the Mavericks, so that sucks. The injured Reploids will give you 1-ups, refill some health, and give you some goodies. You can get extra heart tanks from them, and also increases for your weapon energy. Some of the Reploids are also carrying upgrade points for you to use. Regarding the upgrade points, each character has 3 categories that they can upgrade: Power, Speed, and Special. Upgrading one of these can increase the amount of damage you do, increase saber combos for Zero, reduce the amount of time you need to charge up your charge shot for X, or even something like increasing the amount of time that you're invincible after getting hit. I actually really like this system. The only time I really start to have any kind of fun in this game is when I start getting Zero all beefed up. I'll take the damage and I'll use the extended invincibility frames and just wail on the boss. I pretty much exclusively play as Zero when I go through this game, even though he's incredibly slow compared to playing as him in X4 through X6. And then once I unlock X, he is my backup character. Which brings me to one of the biggest new features in the game. In X7, you get to work in pairs. You can take 2 characters with you to the stage and switch between them whenever you want. And they each have their own health bar, so that comes in handy. And nothing against Axel, he's fine, but like I said, once X is available, I go with 0 as my main and X as my backup. Although, they even managed to make X annoying in his gameplay as well. Like I talked about in the story section, X is completely against fighting and a total jerk to those who think differently than him. Well, while you're playing as X and you launch a charge shot, he'll say, "Stop it," and he just sounds so lame. Aelia is also back as the navigator in the game, and she will message you during your mission. Like in X6, you can ignore it, or you can answer it with the push of a button. However, X7 made it worse. In X6, it made like a little beep noise when you got a message or whatever. In X7, they have Aelia asking whatever character you're playing as if they can hear her. It's really annoying. Really annoying. So as usual, there is the intro stage, the 8 boss stages, and the 3 final stages. Once you get through the intro stage, you can tackle the boss stages in any order you want, but this is the weakness order that I take. Soldier Stone Kong, Tornado Tunyon, Splash Warfly, Flame Hyanard, Ride Borsky, Snipe Anteater, Wind Crowrang, and Vanishing Gungaroo. Soldier Stone Kong is weak to Vanishing Gungaroo's weapon, just so you know for the boss rush later. After that, the Bulldozer Mechanaloid is weak to Explosion from both X and Axel, and it is weak to Zero's thrusting attack with his glaive weapon. Red is weak to the X-Buster from X, the G-Launcher from Axel, and this homing missile type of attack from Zero. After Red is defeated, it's time for the boss rush, and they are all weak to the same stuff from earlier. Once they're dealt with, it's time for Sigma. Sigma's first form is weak to the X-Buster from X, the A-Bullet from Axel, and that same homing missile attack from Zero. Sigma's second form is weak to the X-Buster, the G-Launcher, and the Z-Saber. Since I mostly play as Zero, you'll get a lot of mileage from his deflection move. It will shield you from pretty much all of Sigma's projectiles, and it will reflect them back at him, causing some damage. You just gotta watch out for his other attacks. But then, Sigma is defeated once again, and you have beaten the game. As I mentioned earlier, I think that the game is boring. I don't particularly care for any of the boss designs. I don't really like any of the special moves between X, Zero, and Axel. They're not really anything special. The stages themselves aren't really all that fun either. Like, most of them are just okay. The single most boring stage to me in any X game is Ride Borsky stage. It has you on the Ride Chaser, and you have to collect bombs to defuse them. The Ride Chaser stages in X4 and X5 were really fast-paced, and you can go fast in this stage if you want to. But if you do, you'll most likely miss the bombs, the injured Reploids, and any of the other items or upgrades in the stage. You can loop around again if you miss stuff, but you are on a timer. So I end up going as slow as possible to get everything in one go. I guess that's just on me. Maybe I don't know. It's boring. It's boring. And some of the 3D sections in the game make it really hard to judge the distance properly, making it easier to die than in the 2D sections. Capcom has proven that they can do 3D Mega Man with the Mega Man Legends games. I know that it's not the same as translating the X series into 3D, but it just didn't work for me in this game. But the X series isn't alone. There are a lot of game series out there that had a rough transition into 3D. Some other last-minute tidbits for the gameplay. The game has a New Game Plus feature. You can save your data and start the game again with X unlocked and with all of your power-ups from the previous playthrough. This will allow you to be able to power up your other characters as well. So that's neat. I'm all for some New Game Plus action, especially when it's in a better game. And another annoying thing in this game is when you're on the save menu after beating a stage. The game will default to having no selected after you choose what you want to do. This one might be a little bit of a nitpick, but it is very annoying when you're trying to apply power-ups or save and continue the game quickly. Anyway, the gameplay is slow, clunky, dull, and boring. And I feel that even more so when comparing it to the previous entries in the series. Overall, I think that the graphics are pretty decent, especially in the few fully animated cutscenes. No complaints with that. The in-game character models are okay, definitely nowhere near as good as the sprites from X1 through X6, but they're alright. The stage backgrounds and environments are also just kind of okay. Most of them don't really stand out, with the exception of the Boss Rush Room. This is the coolest looking design they have ever had for a boss rush area. It is so good. So goddamn cool. Just look at it. That is amazing. The sound effects in this game really let me down. Like, all of the attack sound effects don't really have the impact that I'm looking for in a Mega Man X game. And then certain things don't have any sound effects at all. Like when you pick up an item such as a heart tank or a sub-tank, there's no sound effect at all. I don't like it. The soundtrack is probably the best part of the game. It's got some pretty solid tracks. I love Zero's intro stage theme, the boss fight theme, the Palace Road stage theme, even though that stage sucks. The Boss Rush Room theme, I gotta take that one slow, that is such a tongue twister. And I love all of Sigma's themes. They are amazing. Mega Man X7 is the first Mega Man X game to have an English dub since Mega Man X4. And overall, it is absolutely terrible. I'd say it's even worse than the Mega Man X4 dub. At least in Mega Man X4, it was kind of so bad that it's good, and it gave us the memes. In X7, almost everyone sounds really bored, annoying, or like they just don't fit the character. The worst offense in this game for me is the voice for X and Flame Hyanard. And wouldn't you know it, they're voiced by the same person. X's voice is just lame and boring, just like his characterization in the game. And Flame Hyanard, well...
Warning! Warning!
Can you hear me, Zero?
Burn! 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 Burn!
There's a lot of times where I would fight him with the game muted. Anyway, there's only two voices I really like in this game. I like Red's voice a lot. There's just something about it. And I loved Sigma's voice. It is so cheesy and over the top and almost Dr. Claw-esque. I love a good cheesy villain voice, and the actor for Sigma nailed it. I am so glad that this is over with, because I don't like this game. Mega Man X7, to me, is the worst Mega Man X game. Simply because it is so boring, and because they turned X into a whiny jerk. The story's whatever, the gameplay's whatever. The important things are that it introduces Axel, and it introduces the partner system for the gameplay. Beyond that, unless you're a diehard fan and you're just curious and you want to say that you've played them all, I say skip this game and go to X8. It is a much better time, and that is what we are covering the next time we jump into the X series, and I am far more excited for that. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you want to see more of me, you can catch me streaming all kinds of stuff over on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/CaseyTheGamer91. And I also have a Patreon where you can get perks like early video access and some other pretty cool stuff. And that is patreon.com/CaseyTheGamer91. You can find both of those links and all of my other links in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to catch you next time. Peace out.